Hi, welcome back to Deadly Affirmations, the video novel. Today we're going to read the second part of chapter 11. So, let's begin. Here we go. Patience went back to her car, and before she turned on the ignition, she called work and explained to Julie why she would be late, just the kitten part. Julie told her not to worry, there was nothing new going on at TS. Patience turned the key, put her car in gear, drove out of the RCAS parking lot, actually a space in the strip center that also housed a hookah bar and an Asian market, and headed for work. She walked into Thorough Solutions 20 minutes later. Before she did anything else, she took her big bag with her into the ladies' room, and while she was there, after emptying her bladder, she washed and dried the knitting needle. Now she was ready for work. Detective Williams started his Thursday looking at the people who had been murdered. Billy Simpson, the first one, married with 2 kids, teenagers. One dropped out of school, drinks a lot, and has a girlfriend who lives with him in the basement at home. The other one graduated from high school and works as an electrician's assistant, also living at home. Billy is a helper at an HVAC company and seems to care most about his truck and all that goes with trucking. Robbie Daniels, the second one, was just promoted at Thorough Solutions. He was not well liked at work because his coworkers thought he was sneaky and overbearing. He had no family to speak of, at least in the area. In his apartment, the investigating officers discovered a remarkable collection of expensive sneakers and BDSM porn. There were dozens of VHS videotapes and 40 or 50 DVDs, just to be safe. Williams called his friend Dale Stuckey at the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, NCMEC. One box labeled black and white specialty film 8mm and another labeled Irving Klaw specialty film 16mm, a copy of the film Leopard, bikini bound in 16mm, and dozens of Betty Page photos, some signed by Betty and Irving Klaw, and one photograph signed by Betty in black marker and Paula Klaw in blue marker. Daniels was Betty Huston's lover. Johnny Schobert, the third one, graduated from high school in 1988. And for the most part, he was still living in the 80s. He had never made it to management at the fast food restaurant he had been working at since high school, but he was trusted enough to open the place up in the mornings, which gave him nights to go out to listen to music. He liked live music, especially festivals, but had been thrown out of bars and concerts in at least 40 of the 50 states due to his obnoxiously bad behavior. He was basically apolitical, although he did have a box full of Ted Cruz campaign memorabilia. His fervor seemed to begin and end with Cruz's run for the presidency. He was mostly a rock and roll wannabe. He had amassed a huge collection of Ted Nugent stuff, including an entire set of Ted Nugent pistols in 9mm, 10mm, 40 SW, 357 mag, 44 mag, and 45 ACP, and Ted Nugent rifles in 223, 243, 270, 30, 30, 30-06, 308, and 300 WM, as well as 30 or 40 boxes of Ted Nugent ammo. He had autographed Nuge LPs, 45s, CDs, statues, photos, pics, and t-shirts, and even an autographed drum head and an autographed Telecaster guitar. Probably strangest of all, Johnny Schobert had a complete unopened set of 17 Ted Nugent greeting cards. It wasn't surprising that Schobert didn't have a romantic interest in his life, girlfriend or boyfriend. Donnie Johnson, the fourth one, had been a well-known local athlete in high school, all-conference football quarterback, all-state basketball forward, and all-state baseball shortstop, and a competent but not exciting basketball-playing frat boy in college. He left college without graduating when his eligibility ended and worked selling, or rather trying to sell, real estate, condos. He was a big-time Patriots fan with lots of Patriots memorabilia in his home that he had spent thousands of dollars to collect. He never got over being a big man on campus in high school and college and then being a small-time salesman in a tiny little Midwestern town. He had his little condo filled with, besides the helmets and autographed photos and framed jerseys, success books, everything from Dale Carnegie's How to Win Friends and Influence People to George S. Classen's classic 1920s money guide, The Richest Man in Babylon, to Napoleon Hill's Guide to Successful Living, Think and Grow Rich, to Stephen Covey's personal development Bible, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, to Suze Orman's explanation that wealth is not about money, 9 Steps to Financial Freedom, along with 15 or 20 others. Most had never been opened, but they looked nice on the shelves. Other than that, Donnie liked to go drinking with his pals and try to pick up women. He was almost never successful in the bars he frequented. His friends, to a man, told the officers that as far as women went, Donnie was a joke. Betty Husted, the fifth one, worked at Thorough Solutions but was known in River City as a superb baker. She won prizes at the county fair, and judging by what the detectives discovered in her closet, was pretty kinky. Neither Williams nor his detectives were completely sure what some of the stuff that they found was used for. She was Robbie Daniels' lover. She was a dedicated churchgoer but was not involved in church activities, except when baking was involved. Lee spent the day writing a rough draft. There were leftover beans and cornbread for lunch, and then she got back to work on the paper. It was due in less than 5 days. Weezie spent the day knitting. She was really making progress. She took a break around noon to make some fresh tea and let Bruno out for a fly, but then worked until the sun was going down. By the time she had to turn on the lights in the living room to see what she was doing, she had gotten 4 more caps finished. She heated up some of the leftover Chinese food for dinner, ate, cleaned up the dishes, and turned on the radio to listen to the news on PBS. After the news, there would be music. She was never sure what music the radio would play, but she enjoyed most of it, all except for the time that they played that terrible recording of the William Tell Overture, the Blue Danube Waltz, and also Sprach Zarathustra by some group called Portsmouth Symphonia. It was like the members of the orchestra had never played their instruments before. Just the memory of it gave Weezie the shivers. Thankfully, tonight the announcer said that the station would be playing something called the Musical Offering by J.S. Bach on the steam calliope of the Mississippi Queen riverboat, recorded on its cruise from Vicksburg, Mississippi to New Orleans. Strangely, this arrangement of the classical piece featured a cowbell keeping time with the calliope. Weezie gave it a chance but decided to turn it off after about 15 minutes and watch reruns of Jersey Shore on TV.